Links to subscribe to the channel. Check out the subscribe star if you want to join. $2 a month. So quick update to this dystopian nightmare world that you find yourselves in. Children's Hospital gives puberty blockers to 8-year-olds and transition surgeries at 14. And the quote for, despite the development of the system during puberty being necessary for survival instincts. The doctor stated that, so for blocking hormones, does that mean we're delaying that process? Maybe. Keep in mind, puberty blockers, you have a limited window for puberty. I don't know what it is. Say it's 10 years. Yes, you can delay puberty, but you can't ever get it back. It's permanent. It's not reversible, though some kids on Twitter think it's reversible, and I'm only so glad to set them straight on that. And of course, I mean, that's bad enough, but other than that, is cross-sex hormones and then ultimately surgery. This is just the most horrific thing. You're sacrificing. This is like a spiritual sacrifice and a physical sacrifice to Moloch. Lucifer, Satan, whatever you want to call him. Moloch has some historical relevance here. So let me take a closer look at the. This is what is going on in the hospital. Pre-puberty, under 8, and no medical, but there is psychological conditioning, brainwashing, to accept and affirm what an 8-year-old thinks. Their 8-year-old boy thinks they're a girl. I mean, it begs the question, well, what if they thought they were a cat? When I was 8, I thought I was Satan. I had a cape, a pitchfork, and I don't know, horns. I thought Lucifer was the coolest thing ever, because I was a child. I didn't know any better. I mean, where would you go with that argument? If I want to dress up like in mommy's clothes, because see, you get sisters and you see how, it must be fun to put on makeup. It's like, yeah, that's just part of growing up. It's not a big deal in any direction. You just grow out of that when you hit your peer group, and your peer group's not doing that also. That I never wanted to do that. Like, I never wanted to put any more work into preparation than I had to, which is why I'm wearing shorts and t-shirt now. Anyway, so this is for 8-year-olds who think they're the opposite sex, is to start affirming that, and then refer them to a mental health provider. So what is the mental health provider going to do? Keep in mind, a few years ago, this was treated as a cognitive disorder. Anyway, I suspect that the mental health provider is going to affirm this delusion. From 8 to 14, puberty blockers. So again, that's a permanent developmental delay. There's an R word that you'd use for that, but you can't use on YouTube. Permanent delay, and you'll never get that window back. It's the argument is like, they think it's reversible. So what happens after the puberty window closes at 18 or 20? If you take them off the hormones, you think they're gonna get their full growth back? No, they don't. I mean, take a biology 101 class. Or simply ask someone who's familiar with this area. It's like people just answer questions without thinking like, oh yeah, some doctor said it's reversible, and like, did they actually say that, or are you kind of extrapolating from what you think they said? And then you look at it, you're like, oh, it's not reversible. How could it be? The skeletal, once you retard the skeletal anatomical skeletal growth, once the window closes for growing bones, bone length and whatnot, how do you think you're going to regrow that? If you had a pill to do that, it's like, well, everyone would be, there wouldn't be any short people. It's because you just give them this growth hormone pill you get the idea. It's nonsense. But post-puberty, from 14 and up, is cross-sex hormones and then sex-affirming surgeries, which means they're mutilating 14-year-olds. So Dr. McCain, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, I think they call that CHOP, did a video thing, pediatric medicine specialist, talking about giving puberty blockers to 8-year-olds and removing functioning body parts at 14. Keep in mind, like, they're not giving this, they're selling it, so this is a business that they created out of thin air. And he said that we're not sure if the puberty blockers he prescribes are hindering cognitive development. Yeah, well, how could you be sure? Because there's no long-term studies for this, because you wouldn't do this to anyone. Because why would you? Anyway, you can check this out on Twitter. He goes through the stages of the things I just said. It's just, and you can hear his, you can download his video, listen to him say it himself. I mean, these people, shoot, I'm gonna be careful here. No, this shouldn't be done. This shouldn't be legal. This shouldn't be accepted. This is horrific. Listen, what adults want to do, I think most people are willing to concede that what adults can do. But I mean, really, it's like adult at this for this kind of means 25. And you know, the other side of the argument is like, isn't it kind of by definition that someone who would, like a 18-year-old goes in and says, yeah, I want to have these things done. It's like, well, isn't that by definition a cognitive impairment? If you know what I'm saying. I have to be careful for the YouTube algorithm, but like, doesn't that mean that they're not seeing the world in accord with reality? I mean, the DSM, I don't know, 4 or 5, the ones that, whatever, used to classify this in that way, that it was a cognitive impairment. But because of social, I mean, psychology and psychiatry, it's like, well, psychology is the softest of soft science. Anyway, this is horrific. Form militias, form some in-groups, join us on Gab, Telegram, Odyssey, Shing, and the various other alternative platforms. Telegram is a good place to get started. Telegram and Gab are great places to get started. Because, I mean, this slippery slope is just Dante's Inferno, right? I mean, I was going to say how much worse can it get, but this is bad enough as is. Anyway, check me out, subscribe, star if you wish, and I'll see you guys next episode.